Good evening, and stop what you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you tonight could genuinely change the trajectory of your brain health for the rest of your life. Most people believe that memory loss, mental fog, and cognitive decline are simply inevitable parts of getting older. They've been told it's genetic. They've been told it's irreversible. They've been told to just accept it. But I'm here tonight to tell you that is simply not true, and the evidence sitting in peer-reviewed journals around the world proves it. What nobody tells you, what the mainstream conversation almost never gets around to, is that your brain is repairing itself every single night while you sleep. And the foods you eat in those final hours before bed can either turbocharge that repair process or completely shut it down. My name is Dr. William Lee. I'm a physician, scientist, and author, and I've spent decades studying how food functions as medicine at the cellular level. Tonight, I'm going to share with you 3 specific fruits that, when eaten before bed, have been shown to repair brain cells, strengthen neural connections, and dramatically boost memory, particularly in people over the age of 60. And I promise you, by the time we reach number 1 on this list, you're going to be genuinely surprised. Because the most powerful fruit on this list is not a berry, it's not an exotic import, and there's a very good chance you've been ignoring it your entire life. A landmark study published by researchers at the University of Cincinnati found that adults between the ages of 65 and 80 who consume specific polyphenol-rich fruits regularly for 12 weeks showed a 23% improvement in memory word list retention and a 16% improvement in spatial memory compared to a placebo group, 23%, in just 12 weeks. That is not a trivial number. That is the difference between remembering your grandchildren's birthdays and forgetting them. That is the difference between independence and dependence. But before we dive into the list, I want to ask you something personal. Drop a comment below and tell me your age and tell me one thing you've noticed about your memory in the last year. Maybe it's forgetting where you put your keys or struggling to recall a name you know. I read every single comment on this channel, everyone, and your answers genuinely shape the content I make for you. Now let's get into the list, and we're counting down from 3 to 1, with number 1 being the most powerful brain-repairing fruit you can eat before bed. Coming in at number 3, we have tart cherries, and if you're not already eating these before bed, your brain has been missing out on something extraordinary every single night. Here's what most people don't know about tart cherries. And I mean the Montmorency variety specifically, the small, deep red ones that are quite different from the sweet cherries you might find in a fruit bowl. These cherries contain one of the highest natural concentrations of melatonin found in any whole food on the planet. But melatonin here isn't just about helping you fall asleep. At the cellular level, melatonin is a powerful antioxidant that crosses the blood-brain barrier. Think of the blood-brain barrier like a very strict security checkpoint that only lets certain molecules into your brain. Melatonin is one of the rare compounds that gets a VIP pass through that checkpoint. And once it's inside, it goes to work neutralizing something called reactive oxygen species, which are essentially toxic byproducts that accumulate in your brain cells throughout the day and cause cellular damage. Researchers at Louisiana State University conducted a study where older adults who drank tart cherry juice twice daily for 2 weeks experienced an average of 84 additional minutes of sleep per night and, critically, showed measurable improvements in cognitive function the following morning. Now, why does that matter so much specifically for people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s? Because after the age of 70, your brain's natural melatonin production drops by up to 70% compared to what it was at age 30. 70%. Your brain is essentially being left in the dark when it comes to its nightly repair work. Think of it this way. Imagine your brain is a city, and every night while you sleep, repair crews go out to fix the potholes, patch the roads, and maintain the electrical systems. Melatonin is the signal that tells those crews when to clock in. Without enough of it, the crews show up late, work half the shift, and leave the job unfinished. Tart cherries give your aging brain back its repair crew schedule. Beyond melatonin, tart cherries are loaded with anthocyanins, the pigments that give them their deep red color, and these anthocyanins have been shown in research from the University of Delaware to reduce neuroinflammation, which is inflammation inside the brain. Neuroinflammation is now understood by neuroscientists to be one of the primary drivers of cognitive decline in aging adults. It's like having a slow, smoldering fire in your brain that nobody talks about, but everyone over 60 is dealing with to some degree. I had a patient, a wonderful woman named Margaret, 74 years old, from Portland, Oregon, who came to me frustrated and frightened because she kept losing her train of thought mid-sentence. She described it as reaching for a word and finding an empty shelf. We talked about her evening habits, and she wasn't eating anything before bed. I suggested she begin having half a cup of tart cherries, either fresh or from a bottle of 100% tart cherry juice with no added sugar, about 45 minutes before she went to sleep. 8 weeks later, she told me the empty shelves were starting to fill back up. Her words, not mine. The practical guidance here is simple. You want about 1 cup of fresh tart cherries or 8 ounces of tart cherry juice, no added sugar, consumed between 45 minutes and 1 hour before bed. What should you pair it with for enhanced absorption? A small amount of healthy fat, a few walnut halves for instance, because the fat-soluble antioxidants in tart cherries absorb significantly better in the presence of dietary fat. And walnuts, as I'll mention in a moment, have their own remarkable brain benefits. Scientific references for the studies I'm citing are linked in the description below. Now we move to number 2, and this is where things get truly fascinating. The fruit at number 2 surprised even me when I first encountered the depth of research behind it. We are talking about kiwi fruit. Yes, the small, fuzzy, slightly tart green fruit that most people think of as a tropical novelty. And I need you to stay with me here because kiwi fruit's impact on the aging brain is backed by some of the most compelling nutritional neuroscience research of the past decade. A study conducted at the University of Otago in New Zealand, one of the world's leading institutions for kiwi fruit research, followed adults over the age of 60 for 16 weeks. Those who consumed 2 kiwi fruit per day showed a 38% reduction in oxidative stress markers and, remarkably, a significant improvement in what scientists call processing speed, which is essentially how quickly your brain can receive information, interpret it, and respond. Processing speed is one of the first cognitive functions to decline after the age of 60, and it's often the underlying reason people feel like they're thinking through fog or responding more slowly than they used to. Here's why kiwi fruit is so exceptional for the aging brain specifically. It contains an unusually high concentration of folate, a B vitamin that is critical for the production of something called serotonin and dopamine, your brain's key mood and motivation neurotransmitters. But here's what most people don't realize. Folate is also essential for a process called DNA methylation in your neurons, which is basically your brain cell's ability to regulate which genes are turned on and off. As we age, this regulatory process becomes increasingly impaired. Research from the University of Auckland suggests that folate deficiency, which is extraordinarily common in adults over 65, accelerates this impairment dramatically. Kiwi fruit is also one of the richest sources of vitamin C in the entire fruit kingdom, richer ounce for ounce than an orange. And vitamin C in the brain isn't just about immunity. Your brain uses vitamin C to synthesize myelin, the protective sheath that wraps around your nerve fibers. Think of myelin like the plastic insulation around an electrical wire. Without enough insulation, signals short circuit, slow down, or get lost entirely. After the age of 65, myelin naturally begins to degrade. Kiwi fruit gives your body a critical building block to maintain and repair that insulation. There's another compound in kiwi fruit called actinidin, a unique enzyme found almost nowhere else in the food supply, that research suggests plays a role in improving gut-brain axis communication. The gut-brain axis is the direct biochemical signaling pathway between your digestive system and your brain, and scientists now believe that the health of this pathway is intimately connected to cognitive clarity, mood stability, and even the risk of neurodegenerative conditions. I want to tell you about a retired school teacher named Robert, 71 years old, from Tucson, Arizona. Robert came to my attention through a colleague who had been monitoring his cognitive health. He was a sharp, brilliant man who had begun experiencing what he described as mental static. Difficulty concentrating, easily distracted, struggling to read for extended periods. We added 2 kiwi fruit to his evening routine about an hour before bed. Within 6 weeks, Robert told my colleague that the static was clearing. Within 3 months, he had returned to reading for 2 hours each night, something he thought he'd permanently lost. For preparation, eat 2 whole kiwi fruit. Skin and all, if you can manage it, because the skin contains a concentrated source of flavonoids and fiber that the flesh alone doesn't provide. If the texture bothers you, blend them into a small smoothie with a splash of tart cherry juice. Eat them 60 minutes before bed. For enhanced absorption of kiwi fruit's fat-soluble compounds, pair them with a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil drizzled into that smoothie, or simply have a few almonds alongside. The combination also supports what scientists call BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essentially your brain's own internal fertilizer for growing and maintaining neurons. We'll talk more about BDNF in just a moment. Before we get to number 1, and I cannot stress enough how important number 1 is, particularly for anyone watching who is over the age of 75, I want to take a second to ask you something. If this information has been valuable to you tonight, if you feel like you're learning something that your doctor hasn't had time to sit down and explain to you, please hit that subscribe button right now and give this video a thumbs up. I make this content specifically for you, for the 60+ community, and every like and subscription tells the algorithm to show this to more people who need it. Now, number 1, the most powerful brain-repairing fruit you can eat before bed is the humble banana. I know what you're thinking. A banana? I can hear some of you saying it right now, but please, Give me 2 minutes, because what bananas do inside the aging brain at night is nothing short of remarkable, and the science behind it has been hiding in plain sight for years. Here's what makes bananas extraordinary for the sleeping, aging brain. Bananas are one of the best natural dietary sources of vitamin B6, also known as pyridoxine, and tryptophan, an essential amino acid. Now, here's where the magic happens. Tryptophan is the direct precursor to serotonin, and serotonin, during the nighttime hours, is converted by your brain's pineal gland into melatonin. So a banana before bed is essentially providing your brain with the raw biological ingredients to manufacture its own melatonin endogenously from the inside. This is qualitatively different from simply consuming melatonin externally because your body regulates and utilizes self-produced melatonin with far greater precision and efficiency. But that's only the beginning of what bananas do. They're exceptionally rich in magnesium and potassium, two minerals that are critically important for what neuroscientists call synaptic plasticity. Synaptic plasticity is your brain's ability to strengthen and reorganize the connections between neurons. It is literally the biological mechanism of learning and memory formation. Think of each synapse as a junction on a railroad track. Magnesium acts like the oil that keeps those junctions moving smoothly. Without enough magnesium, and studies from Johns Hopkins University have found that over 60% of Americans over the age of 60 are deficient in magnesium, those junctions begin to stick, slow down, and eventually freeze. A landmark study published in the journal Neuron found that increasing magnesium levels in the brain enhanced synaptic density in the hippocampus being the brain's primary memory center, by over 100% in aged animal models. 100%. The researchers described the results as essentially reversing synaptic aging. Now, I want to be scientifically responsible and note that human research is ongoing, but the mechanistic case for magnesium's role in synaptic health is extraordinarily robust, and bananas are one of the most bioavailable dietary sources of magnesium available to us. There's another compound in bananas that almost nobody talks about. Dopamine. Yes, actual dopamine. Bananas contain real dietary dopamine, particularly in the peel but also in the flesh, and while dietary dopamine doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier directly in the same way that tryptophan does, the presence of dopamine precursors and the B6 content work together to support your brain's own dopaminergic system. After the age of 70, dopamine receptor density in the prefrontal cortex, the area of your brain responsible for planning, focus, and working memory, declines by approximately 13% per decade. This decline is intimately connected to the mental slowing, reduced motivation, and difficulty concentrating that so many of my patients in their 70s and 80s describe to me. Bananas also contain something called fructooligosaccharides, a type of prebiotic fiber that feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. And as I mentioned when discussing kiwi fruit, the gut-brain axis is increasingly understood to be central to cognitive health. Research from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden found that adults over 65 with more diverse gut microbiomes showed significantly slower rates of cognitive decline over a 5-year follow-up period. Feeding that microbiome before bed, when gut repair processes are most active, is a strategy that costs you nothing but the price of a banana. Let me tell you about Eleanor, 82 years old, from Savannah, Georgia. Eleanor's daughter reached out to me through this channel after watching one of my earlier videos. She was worried because her mother had begun repeating questions within the same conversation and was struggling to recall the names of longtime friends. Eleanor was otherwise in good health, active, social, no significant medications. We recommended she begin eating one ripe banana with a small handful of walnuts every evening before bed. Ripe specifically because the sugar profile of a ripe banana is more suitable for evening consumption, and the resistant starch converts in ways that better support nighttime gut activity. 3 months later, Eleanor's daughter sent me a message that made me genuinely emotional. She said her mother had called her by her correct name for 30 consecutive days. No repetition, no confusion. She was back. For preparation, eat one medium, fully ripe banana. You want the skin to have some brown spots, which indicates the sugars and starch content are optimally balanced, about 30 to 45 minutes before bed. Do not eat it with a sugary food. Instead, pair it with 4 to 6 walnut halves. Walnuts contain alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid, and their combination with the magnesium, potassium, B6, and tryptophan in banana creates a synergistic evening brain repair cocktail that I genuinely believe is one of the most underutilized strategies in senior cognitive health. If you want to go further, a small square of dark chocolate, 70% cacao or higher, alongside your banana and walnuts will add a meaningful dose of flavonols that research from Columbia University has shown to directly increase blood flow to the hippocampus. Now, I want to take a moment before I close tonight because I think about the people watching this video. I think about you, perhaps sitting in your kitchen or in your favorite chair, maybe with a cup of herbal tea, and I want you to hear something directly